can we talk? I'd like to touch a little bit more on some of the detail in Cottonmouth.
Yeah, sure.
I am fascinated by so many of the soldiers of the bad guys
hmm
being Army of Sudan. Where did that come from?
I think the Sudanese conflict it doesn't have enough attention paid to it. I guess this is where I maybe am, looking at some of the the deeper concepts, right? Because we tend to focus a little bit here in the United States, especially on things that are Eurocentric,
Mhm.
and I think Sudan has been a forgotten sort of conflict, maybe not. Yeah, not as elevated in the media as it should be, in my
Mhm.
opinion. And I think the fact that there was so much genocide happening is, I just one, I don't like those people because of the fact that they did kill all their own folks. So I was kind of like, okay, you guys get to be the bad guys because I can shoot you up now. But the fact that this that part of the world is not focused on, and I try to find things that sort of are not the usual run of the mill. Where do we normally get our bad guys here on TV and film in the US? That's a question for you. What do you think? Most of them, in my opinion, a lot of them seem to be Eurocentric or US based, sort of the cartels or the uh, the Middle Eastern terrorists or IRA, all sorts of things. So, we don't seem to look at that part of the world very often from that perspective. So I just wanted to throw that out as another way to be a little bit different.
I had a very short conversation at a conference several years ago with CJ Box.
hmm
And um, one of the things, in trying to define who our bad guys are, it's extraordinary what percentage of them are Latin, are
hmm
Mexican American, or South American, or Central American, and
Yep.
supposedly come through the drug trade and so forth.
hmm
Um, and when we write about the really bad guys, I had a book come out, oh, I guess it was last year, about the Chinese influence in the drug trade in Mexico.
hmm
And
Huge.
what I found, we spend a lot of time in Mexico every year. I've been
hmm
doing it for a long, long time. I've got lots of friends down there, including quite a number of officials and military officers and so forth.
hmm
And what I've found is that, yes, the Mexicans provide the foot soldiers now, but
hmm
most of the trade is controlled by China, directly by China. They provide the precursor drug or materials
Yep.
to make most of the drugs. They provide all the equipment. They provide the transportation. They provide the intelligence on how to get it into this country,
hmm
and then they launder all the money. Um, and so the question I had in writing the book is, I wonder how much meddling they were doing in Mexican politics as well. And I wrote the book, and before I ever even began the editing process, I shared it with a friend of mine who is a colonel, Marine Corps colonel in the Mexican Marines. They're
hmm
probably the most honest group in all of Mexico.
Right.
Uh, and he read the book and he sent it back and he said, I don't know if they'll ever let you back to this country again. And they have. So far, they have.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But
They don't hold a grudge.
but I like the idea of. Well, the reason I asked about the Sudanese, I love the idea of your bad guys are all Mexican American or Guatemalan or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly get into the habit of that. I mean, when you look at the Jaeger series, I mean, I think two or three of those were related to Mexican cartels, just because they are not good people, right? I mean, they definitely have an influence on our world, and they definitely do a lot of bad things. So, it's not a big stretch, right? But one of the Jaeger books is actually set in Hawaii, and I make up, sort of inflate this group of Hawaiian separatists who have always been sort of ignored by the rest of us in the United States in regards to how, we sort of took over that piece of land and subjugated those people. And of course, the Hawaiian separatists that there are some, they're mostly peaceful, right? But I inflated them into a more aggressive group, if you will, for purposes of the story and the conflict. So just want to, again, I don't want to always be falling into the same tropes. I'll try to find ways to avoid those traps if I can. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that we do tend to see some of the same things. I mean, if you look at any television show in America today, who are the bad guys? It always seems to be the homegrown white Aryan terrorists, whatever,
Yeah.
right? Which are again, they're definitely a bad influence and bad people. Don't want to ignore them, but it seems to be like, guys, can we branch out a little bit and find some other folks that we can label as bad guys?
Yeah, and it's not like there's a shortage of them.
No, not at all.
You just open your eyes.
Hmm.
When, how much of your time do you spend doing research on your books? We covered, some of the historical research I do. Um, Tell me how you research your books.
Yeah, it's not a that's a great question. I wish you hadn't asked me that because I don't have a great answer. So no, it's interesting that well, since the advent of Google, I used to be a card catalog guy, but now that we have the ability to have our entire world at our fingertips, it is easy enough sometimes just if you have one quick question about something, what happened in 1962, blah blah blah, you can pretty much find it really quickly rather than having to go to the library and doing a lot of legwork. So a lot of internet research, but as I said to you before, I try to get the facts right. So I may spend, a few hours researching one paragraph to make sure that I have it correct, or, sometimes it's even lasts longer than a few hours. So I've been known to fall down a rabbit hole. So I'll give you, for example, in Cottonmouth, the history of the main character, Devlin Mahoney, is he spent some time in a prison in Kosovo, right?
Mhm.
Try to find out information about a prison in Kosovo. Try to find out what that's like on the ground. And it's not exactly laying out there ready to be picked up. You really have to dig for it. So I spent several hours, days, just trying to learn more about prison life in a Kosovan prison in Dubrava, for example. And Dubrava was famous or infamous for the fact that it was bombed in 1999 by NATO because of the
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
KLA was there using it as a base, and then of course the ethnic Serbians murdered the ethnic Albanians because they had that opportunity. And so when you do a little bit of research, you find out you get a lot of results come back to you in regard to the massacre, but not a lot about what the daily life is like today. So anyway, to sort of circle around your answer, but not really getting there, I would say that um, probably a third of the time I spend writing is probably devoted to research, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Probably adds up about the same as what I do.